Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
All right, guys. Well, it's Wednesday, and there is just a whole slew of data coming out at 8 o'clock today. So I think that the market is kind of waiting on that. Meanwhile, I am still dead in the water, man. Everything is in line like it should be working now. I'll talk to them again. See what we got to do. But anyways, let's come and pull up TradingView and look at things from that perspective and chill until the data comes out. And maybe we'll get lucky and they'll fix it halfway through. Okay, so you can see here yesterday, it kind of started out on, we gotta come over here, move it over here where you can see it. Use this one so that you don't mistake what's what. Okay, so we kind of started on the downside and they started moving up, and you can see it's sort of relatively significant. Actually, let's look at these from 30 minutes. Yeah. So now you can kind of see kind of recovering a lot of the downside that we saw at the end of the year. I would love to see them back above this, well, like back into the 113 area, really, ultimately. Okay. Now on the bottom here, you got the S&P 500. It looks like they did pretty okay yesterday, mostly the beginning of the session. Okay. Big one to note this morning is oil. The United States announced that they're going to be selling like 50 billion barrels. They've got an agreement and yada, yada, yada. So that really hit the oil price. I'm still of the opinion that the Venezuela thing doesn't affect oil that hard short term. I think that this is kind of more of a everything put together. It looks like oil might be cheap for a while. So that's good. Million. It's like 2 days worth of you. Yeah, it wasn't a large amount. You're totally right. It was more of a symbolic thing. I guess it's worth pointing out just because we want to see like what actually moves orders. That change in expectations about the future supply makes a big change in oil. And the oil is very inelastic like that. So even a tiny change can, although in this case, they probably did move more than was justified by the supply chain, wasn't it? All right, gold. Well, gold yesterday was right back up there again. Actually, we should really be looking at silver. Ooh, mama, new highs briefly, but they have come back. I'm starting to get a hint here that like there's a bigger problem with silver than we realize, because silver has a lot of industrial uses. For instance, I saw a story yesterday that the makers of solar panels are having to rethink the materials that they're using for their solar panels. And silver ends up being an extremely useful industrial metal because it is like the most conductive thing that we have. So it's not just some like momentum squeeze retail. I'm not even sure if retail traders have really, really gotten involved in a major way during this. Although this movement during the holidays maybe does suggest that that could be happening. But I haven't seen any direct reports saying like there's really big positions in retail and yada, yada, yada. It really looks like there is just need for silver and not enough supply of it right now. And all of the guys that have been perpetually short silver for forever are kind of realizing that doesn't work anymore and puking. Is there, well, we should probably check a Bitcoin. You know, we haven't been checking Bitcoin. Pull it up on Coinbase. It looks like there was a little bit of downside yesterday, but still holding that 92,000 area. And what else do we tend to look at? I think that's probably good for now. We can change it back to ZN. Yeah, do you still have problems? I still have problems, man. I shouldn't. Everything looks correct on my side. Yeah, I don't know. The thing is that I can see the transfer happen on my bank account. I can see everything going through, but then when I go to Phillips Capital, not that I can really show you guys, but I guess I might as well pull it up on my other screen and double check that this is still true. When I go to Phillips, even though the transaction has happened, it doesn't look like it's actually made it into the account. Doesn't look like they've actually put it in the account. Let's see here. Yeah. Like I see here statement value 1-6, which was yesterday, right? Today's the 7th. Current value 1.7. And the NLV is 109 or whatever. So it looks like they have received it, but they haven't put it into my actual trading account yet, and ergo I can't. So I'm a little frustrated. I feel like today would be a day where we should get a lot of activity. I'm expecting there to be a decent amount of movement even before the 8 o'clock news that we get. Because so many data points coming out there that people are going to be trying to get ahead of them, right? But and you can see here, like already, this has been 3 ticks, just moving. So I'm a little frustrated, but really, I think I'm okay as long as we're good to go on Friday, right? So if we can get that fixed by Friday, I think we're okay. I did leave edge clear support a question 24 minutes ago, so trying to think about if there's anything else worth covering here at the beginning of this. Oh, wow. Okay. Happening now. Footage shows U.S. Special Forces helicopter attempting to board Russian flagged tanker in the Atlantic. So there's one particular tanker that the Coast Guard had been following, and Russia was like mobilizing a submarine for it. And now we are finding that the special forces are boarding it. This is kind of weird, honestly. Why they focus down on, because there's lots of boats out there. What's so special about this particular one? RT News. Well, okay, so I'm always a little skeptical about RT News, but Reuters reports that the U.S. is attempting to seize a Venezuela-linked oil tanker after a 2-week chase involving a U.S. Coast Guard vessel and surveillance aircraft. They added that Russian military vessels, including a submarine, were in the general vicinity when the operation took place. It then made an abrupt change. Whoa. That's got my oil stocks pre-market popping hard again, which is kind of funny considering it really isn't consequential. It is kind of weird, because why is that one boat so special? Because as far as I understand, there's like a whole shadow fleet of vessels. For some reason, the news and the U.S. administration and everything focused in on that one particular boat. Maybe there's something on it that shouldn't be. They're going to bring it back to port and show us a nuclear weapon or something, and then it'll be like, oh, okay. If there's any hint in the fact that it's Valero specifically that's popping the hardest. Valero, where have I heard that from? Where have I heard the company Valero in the past week? No. I've heard it in news headlines in the past week. You haven't? I don't know if I've ever seen Valero gas stations before. I don't know if we have those here in Utah. Let's check Yahoo Finance. I mean, it is curious that. Well, so let's just do Valero. Valero Energy over here. Yeah, they're spiking hard today. But I'm wondering if we just use them as an example and we come way back, like going back to 20. Since the invasion, essentially. Well, they're not up too much, but they're peaking really good here today. I always, CVX, not CX, CVX. Chevron. Okay. Like, I kind of feel like, honestly, if we're getting a spike here off of this in oil companies, that's a good opportunity to sell it. Because I just don't see the oil price being as high anymore. So this whole thing started before 2020, when we were kind of like, oil is kind of a little low. I think that geopolitical tensions and everything else coming along, eventually that something's going to happen. You're going to get a big spike and you make the money, right? And I feel like we've had spikes. Maybe now with some of the gas stations specifically, you're getting that spike right now. And I'm thinking that in the future, that in the next 5 years that oil prices are likely to be in the range that they've been. That we're probably not going to see $100 a barrel oil for a long time. Unless something really, really crazy that I am just not expecting happens, right? Like, you know, there is an open conflict between the United States and Russia or something like that. But it's curious with the Venezuela question in particular, because you got to realize that while Venezuela has tons of oil, it is not sweet light. It is sour crude. So that tends to be used more in industrial uses, diesel fuel, things like that. Whereas the sweet light crude is what they use for the gas pump. All right. So then Venezuela supply coming online doesn't have as much of an effect. On the other hand, if Iran were the protests in Iran, which are getting more severe, if that situation escalated to the point where Western powers intervene and topple the Iranian regime over there, and Iranian oil was able to come out on the market, that's sweet light, and that would have a huge effect. That would have a huge effect. So I'm a little bit honestly torn on like which sector do I think, like if I'm going to pick a sector for 2026, who was going to perform the best in 2026? Or who's going to perform the best over the next 5 years? And I'm not sure where it is. I still think there's a lot of room to run in commodities in general, especially rare earths. So rare earths, they've gotten pretty good. Let's pull up one of those. REMF. It's the one that I own. Pink sheets. They had a spike earlier in the year when we were getting headlines, but it looks like they've come back down. And so maybe actually, if it gets much lower, I'll pick up some more. So there's that. Uranium. What's that? UU? Yep. Energy Fuels Incorporated. Okay. They had a huge spike in 2025 in uranium. Man, that's such a big move. And they're kind of starting to push up again. Oh, okay. I just heard another headline about selling Venezuelan oil on the open market. I think maybe part of what's going on here is the U.S. administration, they want their intervention in oil, or sorry, they want their intervention in Venezuela to depress the oil price, and it's not having as much of an effect as they want, and so they're trying to put headlines out to try and make it go down is really what I think is going on there. Let's see here. Freeport McMoran FCX. Why is the M in that capitalized? I didn't know it was spelled that way. Ooh, copper is just doing amazing, isn't it? Copper seems to be hot metal right now. Okay. So I think all of the non-oil commodities probably could do pretty good this year. But are those going to be like the big winners? What are some other industries? Well, AI, I think has some issues. Come to Oracle. I'm always surprised that I'm able to remember all these tickers because I really don't spend that much time looking up stock symbols. Okay, Oracle, they took a big old jump earlier this year, and they have given most of it up. Okay, so the AI market seems like they are in a retracement of some sort. Okay. Now, I think if I was really enamored with that section of the market, that I would probably be looking more at robotics. But I don't know which stocks I would want to be getting into in robotics. A big one was iRobot. iRobot was the one that I would pay attention to in the past, but they went out of business. Is Boston Dynamics a stock? I don't think that they are. Yeah, it doesn't look like that they are. And Steffa says, I don't know. Well, let's ask ChatGPT. Robotics, like those from Boston Dynamics, are making headlines and could be a huge investing theme in 2026. What are the top stock tickers in the sector to look at? They just released well, so the first business week in January is when the Consumer Electronics Symposium happens. What is CES? I don't know what the S stands for. It's Consumer Electronics. So what's happening right now is all of the robotics companies are in Las Vegas showing stuff off, and the media is taking off with it. I would say that so far I haven't seen anything in the robotics that really stuns me compared to other stuff that I've seen released in the past year. But there are a few specific things that are catching people's attention. Boston Dynamics does have a demonstration going on. Another one was there was a new robot vacuum, and this robot vacuum had legs on the wheels so that it can kind of like crawl up your stairs. And I was seeing a lot of people talk about that one. All right, ChatGPT says top robotics and physical AI stocks. Number 1, NVIDIA. You are useless. Useless. Tesla is number 2. Really? What's this one? Teradyne. Owns Universal Robots and MIR, a leader in industrial, collaborative, and autonomous robots. Teradyne? Wait, isn't that the name of the company? Wow. Okay, well, that's a stock. That's a stock that's popping off huge, and even popping off huge today. So that's probably a good one to watch. Intuitive Surgical, Symbotic, Rockwell Automation, UiPath, Qualcomm, Amazon, Hyundai Motor Company. Oh, ARK has an autonomous technology and robotics ETF now. So robotics might be one place, but I kind of feel like it's popping off. You know, it was already popping off in 2025, and now it's popping off early, and so we may have already missed the boat on that one. So what are some of the other sectors where we think that there's going to be big growth? No. Well, let's come back and look at our 5-minute chart here. Looks like the treasuries are still slightly tilted to the upside, and there was that brief spike in the E-mini that seemed to come back very quickly, and I do think that that was Venezuela headlines. What else we got going on here? Oh, I've still been thinking about audio interfaces because I would like an audio interface that has a little bit more powerful for the microphone. But like the more that I think about it, the more that I'm like, I really don't think I can justify $500 for like I don't even know if you guys would notice if I changed the audio interface. So I was thinking, well, what if I got something secondhand? Okay. Yeah, so it's like, well, there's one that's an auction. It's not done yet. Ooh, damaged screen. Okay, here's one. There's a lot of broken ones out there, apparently. Must have been some shipment of them, like, fell over somewhere or something. I only see one really for auction. Oh, I have to follow it, I guess. Where was it? Alright, we can close that. Turns out, so this guy on Twitter says, Augustin LeBron, turns out interpolation can take you a shockingly long way, just not all the way. Nah, no jigsaw today. I'm still waiting. Actually, did I close the window? Yes, maybe I closed the window. So I could try again, but let me just come over here so I can put it on the screen. Yep, still gives me login failed. So I left a message for Edge Clear, and we'll see if what they say today. So when I go on Reddit, I still see pretty heavy complaining about the labor market right now. But when I go on LinkedIn, my LinkedIn network is a lot more active. So I don't know if I should pull it up, but because I don't necessarily want, people on my network to get inundated or anything. But here's somebody hiring. Like, the first thing on my feed is somebody that I know that they've got an open position. Maybe let's search your jobs. Circle looks like they reposted. Wow, global infrastructure engineer, $200,000 to $300,000 a year. Represents site operations. So that's for a data center. That seems like something that I could get the knowledge of and do, but you gotta have the way in the experience. Yeah, most of what I'm seeing here is the same stuff. So I'm going to say that hiring has picked up a little bit in January, but that it's still very slow, especially amongst the larger companies. the 10-year treasury, granted my data is 10 minutes delayed, but it looks like it's starting to go sideways here. So maybe it's going to just chill for the next hour. Of course, we do got the market open at the bottom of the hour, but the 10 o'clock news, there's so much stuff stacked up there that it's really going to be. Yeah, just thinking about the administration cards, I'm browsing Reddit here, and Reddit's showing me the tweet where Donald Trump says, pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil in the United States. So that is, again, the administration wants the price of oil to go down, even though it's already kind of low. And I don't think that it's going to have as much of an effect as they think it will, because it is sour crude. So now I'm thinking, well, you know, if you will really want the price of oil to come down, you should see the regime in Iran fixed. So if you start telling the U.S. administration that, maybe they would be more likely to start doing something in Iran. It's a little crazy to me that like we can even have conversations like that. That's even like a legitimate avenue of speculation. But it is what it is. I don't know why I've been thinking about this a lot lately, but I really think that one of the things that we struggle with as traders the most is being able to analyze the information for what it is and not get caught up in how we feel about it. And I don't just mean like you're in a position and if the position is losing, you got to keep your wits about you. I'm saying like if Donald Trump tweets something, how do you feel about what he just tweeted? Do you like what he said or not like what he said? Do you know, maybe you dislike the way that he said it or the way that he does things, or maybe you don't like the policy overall. But as traders, we really have to think about, well, what does this mean for our markets? Are there people out there that are going to submit orders based on what he just said because it changes their expectations of the future and various other things that will affect the market orders, right? And so we have to look at it from that perspective and not prejudge the piece of information. And this is not a natural thing. In fact, from what I've read, a lot of people just can't do that. And, you know, early on in the administration, it was kind of like that. We were getting a lot of market moving headlines every day because of that whole tariff thing, right? That kind of died down. And maybe people think that, oh, well, I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. And now it's coming back. Hold on a second. I want to check something here behind my desk. Ah. Order flow is the proximate cause? What do you mean by that? The immediate cause. Sure. If you know that certain orders are coming, you can predict the change that will have on price. But ultimately, we have to predict the order flow, which usually means news. Right? You see a change in news or the macro framework or whatever. Yeah, and then you get that triggers orders, and then you can. I mean, the way that I try to explain it is that you have to have two pieces of information, right? You have to know the future orders that are coming, and you have to know the current state of the order book, the resting orders that are already out there, the state of the current liquidity. And those two things together, then you can make very accurate predictions about where price is going to go. But you kind of have to have both. Because I think that the pitfall that a lot of people would fall into is, well, news is the thing that really triggers everything. So why should I even bother reading the order flow? I just look at the news and know how it's going to move, right? And the issue with that is that it's going to be different depending on the liquidity conditions. So you're missing half the equation. So you really need both. You need current liquidity conditions and a predictor of order flow. Predictor of order flow most commonly being some sort of breaking news or change in macroeconomics. Once you kind of understand that, then we can go and look at, okay, what do we actually know about the order flow that tells us how things are going to go? Because there's a lot of stuff taught in the retail order flow space. This is kind of nonsense, unfortunately. And I need to make some videos about it, but I'm too lazy, I guess. Let's see, what time is it? 7:07? This could be a long hour waiting for all of the data that we got at the top of the hour, huh? Change my view. AGI and ASI and the singularity will kill us all. The top post on r/livestream fail is Hassan crashes out at Venezuelans celebrating Maduro's capture. What? Sure. Let's pull it up.
He's bombing the fuck. He bombed Caracas. He arrested Maduro. And a lot of those Venezuelans, some of them are going to be in the chat today, are going to fucking talk like this is a fantastic moment and Trump is a great liberator. Bitch, he's saying you're a rapist. Okay? I need you to understand this. If you are a fucking Venezuelan expat, if you are a Venezuelan refugee living in the United States of America, understand something. He is saying you're a rapist, drug dealer that will get sent to fucking CCOT. Okay? It doesn't matter whether you like Maduro or whether you hate the Chavistas or whatever the fuck, okay? He will use you like a pawn. Okay? You're like a cum rag. That's it.
So see, this comes back to the like prejudging information, right? He's so retarded. I mean, it really bothers me that basically everybody turns to to become famous online or to do well on YouTube or in live streaming. You have to say the craziest things, you know? I could say lots of crazy things, but I don't. I don't feel that it is responsible. But what is he thinking about? He is concerned that there are people claiming to be Venezuelans that like what Donald Trump did. And why does that bother him? Because he doesn't want Donald Trump to be in power anymore. He wants a Democrat to be president. He wants the Democrats to be, you know, heading or the majority party in Congress and the Senate and all of this sort of stuff. And so he's thinking about, how do I argue about this to convince more people to be liberal, to be Democrat? That's what he's thinking. And it looks to me like it kind of irks him that he thinks it's such a bad thing. And there are some people that are Venezuelan that think that it's a great thing that they did. But really, if you're going to be the person that is really focused on news and politics and what's going on in the world, if you approach everything from that perspective, you will just drive yourself crazy, especially if you're a Democrat, because the Democrat Party is basically created this news cycle thing that is basically, let's get everybody excited about whatever the new outrage of the week is. You can't live like that, man. It'll drive you crazy. We need to think of it from the perspective of what's going on. What does this possibly mean for the near future? Well, there's definitely been a shift, I think, in the global order here. I mean, it's something that's been going on for a long time. It's something that we've been saying, like, the world is different now. But here now you're kind of seeing the last final nails in the coffin, if you will, right? And it is what it is. It is what it is. I noticed that after our dog passed away, I stepped back mad hard from rage bait politics. Yeah. Well, I think I think ultimately that we tend to use social media and news in particular to supplement the real social interaction that we're supposed to be having with people every day that we don't really get anymore because of the way that society is.
Voice news disconnected.
I mean, don't you think that my approach to politics has changed over the past month? I shouldn't say approach, but just like the whole vibe. has kind of changed. Because I'm not stuck at home spending all my day browsing LinkedIn for jobs to apply to all day anymore. Right? I have to go into the office where there's basically 1,000 or so nerds. Wow, the treasuries are tanking here. What's with that? That was 10 minutes ago. I think that may be more Venezuela stuff, but that's curious. We use it to supplement how boring we actually are. We're not interesting and we're not on average very intelligent, so we convince ourselves that politics and being angry about it presents us as intelligent, informed, and moral as opposed to boring recliner junkies and gamers. And the harder you try in that endeavor, the more miserable you become. Well, I agree with the last part. I mean, one of the things that I really struggle with when I'm on the internet is the amount of conversation and or opinions, etc., that I see out there that just seems completely brain dead to me. Like, who are you people? Where is all this stupid commenters coming from? Right. Are they all just kids? This is why I get on this kick that's like, you know, maybe kids just shouldn't be on the internet. Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to comment on news articles until you're an adult. Or at the very least, we should be able to see how old you are or something like that. Like, maybe our entire approach to the internet would be different if everybody was able to see who is a kid and who's not. Because in real life, you know how old somebody is generally. You know if they're a 14-year-old versus a 40-year-old, right? Is it just kids? Or is it there's a lot of people that are just low IQ? Which could be going on, and that there might be certain groups of people that aren't too bright or that are politically captured that, you know, are doing the majority of the commenting, and so I get it from that way. Because if I really want to have like a really informed, deep conversation about what's going on in the world, that's not just to trigger everybody's political sensitivities, it's like practically impossible now. And so then I have to look at myself and I'm like, oh, well, is it just that I'm that unusual? I don't think I'm that much smarter than everybody else. I mean, I know that I'm intelligent just because everybody your whole life tells you that, and you're able to do things and accomplish things that other people can't. So I do believe that I am probably slightly above average intelligence, but I don't think that I'm like some 140 IQ god. And that's how I feel when I'm reading the internet sometimes. It's like, how is it everybody else is so stupid sometimes? It's just like the stupidest people come out of the woodwork. And at that point, it just seems unrealistic, doesn't it? That Seth is really that much more intelligent than everybody else. Wouldn't it be more likely that Seth is just telling himself that so that he can seem intelligent, informed, and moral as opposed to everybody else? But at the same time, I clearly don't do it because I think that it makes me more moral or better than other people. At this point, I kind of feel that being like really highly informed and highly engaged in politics does not necessarily speak well of you, and that there are very few of us that can really do it without it negatively affecting our mental health and so forth. And on that point, I'm able to do that, not because I'm more intelligent than other people, but just because of the unique parts of my neurochemistry. 140 IQ is not God tier? Oh, yes, it is. Isn't the highest IQ that we get right now in the 140s? Let's see here. No. The highest ever recorded was 228, but I think that the highest right now is like in the 160s. Yeah, you need special tests to be accurate above 150. But you got to realize though with IQ, you know, it being a distribution, the further out that number becomes, the more insane, the more crazy it is.
US Southern Command says the US has apprehended tanker
it's
Sophia in international waters.
It's a really long distribution. So like my understanding is that this is like 110
US for the final deposition.
So if you are at 120, you are already more intelligent than the vast majority of people. And when you're getting into 130 and 140, you're getting into levels of intelligence that are extremely unusual and that like people can really tell, right? So being at 10 points is one standard deviation. There you go. So being an engineer, or you know, being within certain professions, you could safely say you're probably between 110 and 120. But then when you're getting into the 130, 140 range, you're starting to get into like savant, and then 160 and let's say 150 and above is like
sanctioned dark fleet vessel.
There's only a handful of people like that. So I do think I'm more intelligent than other people, but I don't think I'm 130 intelligent than other people. Right? So like that's just based on like how I know that I think and how I know that I perform on things and what I've read about how those correlate to IQ, right? Because I haven't taken a test, right? And the problem is that when I'm on the internet, what I see on the internet kind of makes like where I feel I am relative to everybody else is like I must be a savant. It doesn't fit. Maybe it's just the dead internet theory, right? It really is that everybody that's posting are just robots and saying stupid shit. I don't know. Let's see here. I used to listen to Tim Pool lose his shit over the coming Civil War all the time. It's been a while, but I look back all the time and I'm like, I can't believe I eat that slop. Oh yeah, totally. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely crazy things going on in the United States right now and unique things happening in politics, but I kind of think that the idea of the Civil War is a little farcical. There was a period there in 2025 where it was like everybody on the right was just absolutely convinced that it was imminent. It's already been proven that over half the internet, well, activity, but like if like what percentage of Reddit comments are bots? Because we all kind of think that it's like 5%. And is it really as high as 50%? And sometimes I wonder if it's actually like 80%. Or even if it's just that this one person that's arguing with me for multiple comments in a row is maybe not a robot, but a shill, you know? Because I will just, man, when people on Reddit want to go multiple comments with me, it's very often that they just say the dumbest shit. You know what? Another thing though that's going on is particularly on Reddit is because these people on Reddit have definitely, it was going back, what was it that Uzi said here, that you are like, you're more intelligent, informed as moral as opposed to boring recliner junkies and gamers, right? I think one of the things on Reddit that I'm starting to realize is like, it's starting to turn into that one of the primary uses for Reddit is porn. So, like, I really think that a lot of the other activity that goes on the site is really all gooners arguing with each other. Really do. But it's the primary use for the entirety of the internet. No. I think it's getting worse though. I think that you come from these conservative states. Like, I think that for some people, Reddit is like the last place left. That's why if you go on Reddit, everybody complains about where they're from. Maybe. Let's see here. Most of us aren't intelligent per se. You're specialized. You're yeah. There are probably things you can figure out that some dumbasses do every day. I don't know. I feel that there is not a single thing in this world that I couldn't figure out if you gave me 5 years. I'd have a good long conversation in person about how prawn is growing so much and will continue to grow even more, getting more, I don't know, almost addictive. Well, so, you know what? I think I can tell you where this is going, though. This is like such a weird thing to talk about, but I think it does ultimately matter culturally and could matter to stocks and things like that. As what I see happening is hardcore pornography becoming more and more fringe, and softcore becoming more and more common. Is what I see. So those kinds of websites where, you know, like Pornhub is probably the biggest one, right? That is going to be less popular. In part because it's getting banned so many places, and going on, well, I don't know if necessarily about paying for it on OnlyFans, but like, okay, just going on Instagram and finding all of the girls that are wearing bikinis or whatever become more common. That's where it's headed. But what was I saying about Reddit? I think I was saying something like the direction that Reddit is going or something. We're gonna reach an apex in that arena culture with children. It's only a matter of time before intelligentsia starts mainstreaming and normalizing that argument. I don't know what you're talking about, but I think that it's a big like. The thing that I see happening now is everybody realizing that like basically everybody over the age of 12 is exposed to this stuff and how damaging it really is for developing minds. And as time goes along, I think that there will be more and more things done about it. So like I said, this is the same thing. The hardcore stuff will be pushed to the fringe more and more, and the softcore stuff will become more and more common. Yeah, maybe. But like, here's the thing, is we are seeing a major demographic change simply because liberal people aren't having kids.
RAF planes are involved in the US Special Forces operation.
So make no doubt about it. The next generation of people, like 20 years from now, is going to be different and probably more conservative. So I personally don't think, you know, like obviously this is a whole slippery slope argument and all that sort of stuff, but I think that 20 years from now that we will look back on what we allowed children to do on the internet and what we allowed children to be exposed to, or even just teenagers, and be horrified because we realize how damaging it really is. It was like I was saying, when you're doing reinforcement learning, the order of information matters. And if you pass in a piece of information that is like super, like really catches the attention of the network, then from then on, that dominates everything in the network.
S&P 500 buy side,
and that's a problem if the intention dominating node is not actually that effective for their performance in the real world, essentially. So what do you end up with? You end up with this Gooner LLM that all it knows about is Gooner stuff, and it can't solve actual problems. That's what we're doing to people. So that's why it's bad. I know it's funny that the whole terminology, but that's why it's bad for little kids to be exposed to sexual things too early.
Intraday record high.
It dominates the brain, and it prevents them from picking up other things. Another way of looking at this, like trying to change the subject from something a little less unsavory, is that there are lots of things, skills that we have to do every day that, like, if robots do them all for us, what kind of person are you creating? And I think that there in the future is going to be things where it's like, so like, say for instance, we have self-driving cars in the future. Okay. If everybody has, like, even in the world right now, it's like, do you really have to know how to read a map? No, you just have to know the address and then follow the directions. But if you don't even have to actually drive and pay attention and navigate yourself to the place, if it's literally just you give the car the address and it takes you there, how do you learn how to read a map? You essentially end up with a group, a whole society that can't read maps. And that's an interesting thing, because there's like research on this and stuff like that, right? Like, a lot of women have a very difficult time with directions and don't understand directions very well and can't read maps very well. And there are some men that are really, really good at it and just do it naturally. But would it be the same if they never had to practice that skill? And so then there could be certain negative consequences on your cognitive functions if you never have to exercise those parts of the brain, because navigating around the world is like one of the biggest parts of our brain and our evolution and so forth. So it might be in the future that we do things to practice navigating and mapping out the world, specifically because you don't have to do it anymore. because of the cognitive benefits of it, right? Like, that's where we're going. And I really think that 20 years from now, we're going to look at where the internet has taken things and what it's done to us and be horrified. I will say the map reading I learned in the army like mad juiced my spatial intelligence. Yeah. Like it's a huge part of your brain. This is the thing. I don't know. You ever what was, I can't remember, it was like Beauty and the Nerd or something like that. There was this reality TV show where they would pair up a bimbo girl with a super nerd guy and then have them do certain things, right? And the nerds would have to answer questions about fashion and social stuff, and the women would have to do things like navigate on a map, and they couldn't do it. And it was like insane to me, some of the things that the quote unquote bimbos couldn't do. And it was really kind of jarring to me because I've never met a woman in real life like that. Like certainly my wife doesn't know where things are, but I can explain where it is and she gets there no problem. And when I say she doesn't know where things are, it's like, well, you go to 4th North. She doesn't know what the street names are. Like, how do you not know? You drive this road every day. You don't know what it's called. How do you not? But that's the worst of it. These people that like just literally couldn't read it. I had a missionary companion from South Africa. He couldn't read it. He had a hard time reading a map, and he spent lots of time looking at it to learn. You know what? The funny thing on that one was I think by the end he wasn't that bad at looking at maps, but there was just like 1 or 2 addresses that like didn't actually exist. So you spend all this time looking for them when they didn't actually exist. Spend a lot of time looking at it to learn that something kids these days can't do well because their brains are already fried. Well, is it because their brains are already fried, or is it just because of an attitude change? Right? Like, remember when we were in school and you were doing math and everybody was like, am I really actually going to use this in the real world? And, you know, we don't need that anymore because we have calculators. And there was lots of kids that I feel did not take school very seriously and didn't try hard because of it. They didn't take any of the advanced classes. They didn't pay attention in the classes that they had. And they just kind of coasted along, and you get B's and C's and everything, and it's okay. And then they graduated, maybe they go to school, and they come out, and then they're pissed that they they can't find a job that's pays more than 70K a year. And it's like, well, okay, what am I going to tell you? I tried hard in school, and I went and I got into an area that was very, very technical and paid really, really well. And you didn't. What do you think was going to happen? And it wasn't even like that I use that math every day, because I don't. I use it in the trading, and otherwise I don't know if I would have. But it was training the brain up to be able to do those sorts of things so that I could get into the really technical problem solving that I do, you know? And so I refuse to believe that these kids are not capable of learning those things and doing those things. They just don't seem to care. As in, tried to learn kids aren't trying to learn, more so than when we were kids. Arguments, believe me, it's not cool for kids to try anymore. It's crazy. Like, they'll get bullied for caring. Really? Well, I don't think that happens where I live, but that certainly happens in poorer communities. I don't know. But like I said, the whole thing is, I think one of the things about me is that I just care more than an average person does. Like that's an ADHD trait. It's it expresses itself in one form, which is justice sensitivity. But overall, it's like if I'm doing something, I'm going to try and accomplish it to the very best standard, always, all the time. If I'm in school, I want to get 100%. If I'm studying for a test, I want to get 100%. Even if it doesn't matter. To me, it matters a lot. And just like the way that expresses itself in justice sensitivity is, here are the rules and here's what's supposed to happen. And if that doesn't happen, it upsets me, right? So I definitely care more than other people. But the thing that I don't understand is seeing how things have gone for millennials.
Raised in a single day as they look to capitalize on strong market conditions.
Because everybody's takeaway is like, oh, I shouldn't have tried because we're all screwed anyways. And millennials are just bitter. They can't own a home. They can't find good jobs, and they're just screwed. And I'm like, how is the takeaway not, I should have tried harder in school. I should have gotten straight A's and gone into an engineering university degree or a lawyer or something that paid well, and then I wouldn't be in this situation. And you know what I mean? But like, again, that's the thing that they kind of started this. It was that I really think that part of the root of this is that we don't have the same kind of social society that we did, right? People would have absolutely no problem with trying hard and learning all of those things, and they would do it willingly and enjoy every second of it if they were living in a society where they could see the social importance of it. But the reality is that Most people don't have that. Most people, the furthest that they ever get of that is at school, and the community that they're dealing with at school is too large to really wrap your head around. So you don't really get that tight thing, and then high school ends and you never see them again. It used to be in America that you would get that community from church, but now people don't even go to church. So where are they getting it from? That you're essentially turning everybody into digital nomads, and it messes them up. That community comes from TikTok and Reddit. This is the same thing. I don't think that TikTok and Reddit actually fulfill that need for people. That's why they're all running around chasing these things, like especially politics, because politics makes people feel like they have that sense of community. But ultimately, what it needs to be is forming close, consistent relationships with 1 to 200 people. And if you're not doing that, then you start to get like, weird. Because your brain literally needs it. That's like the entire reason that your brain evolved into what it is, so that it can navigate those social networks of your local tribe, 1 to 200 people, Dunbar's number, right? And the internet would be great for giving people that place, but we didn't let it become that. We chased virality instead because that's where the money was at. And so the result is everybody's a digital nomad. I'm a digital nomad. I guess this is home, just very, very small home. I don't think maybe we're up to 200. As of late, we've kind of been a little smaller. But the places that I grew up and I cared about as a kid, and the people that I knew, it's all gone. They all got wiped out by Facebook. I kind of wonder, with Reddit in particular, if people burn out on Reddit more and more.
According to Trump on True Social, saying Russia and China have zero fear of NATO without the United States.
Eventually, this kind of...
If we really needed them.
Like we were talking about Hassan. Eventually, when you're like stuck in that kind of loop, like eventually it just gets so exhausting.
Everyone is lucky that I rebuilt our military in my first term and continue to do so. We will always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for us. The only nation that China and Russia fear and respect is the USA.
Okay. We're just seeing some comments coming over the wire from Trump on Truth Social. I did earlier. I had a thought about like where is Reddit as a platform going, and I just completely blinked out, and I feel bad that like I'm not on top of my thoughts enough to stay structured on that. How is that the man? So this comment from Trump on True Social is pretty long. remember, for all those big NATO fans, that they were at 2% GDP, and most weren't paying their bills until I came along. The USA was foolishly paying for them. I respectfully got them to 5% GDP, and they paid immediately. Everyone said they couldn't be done, but it could, because beyond all else, they are all my friends. Without my involvement, Russia would have all of Ukraine right now. Remember, also, I single-handedly ended 8 wars, and Norway, a NATO member, foolishly chose not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that I saved millions of lives. Russia and China have zero fear of NATO without the United States, and I doubt NATO would be there for us if we really needed them. Everyone is lucky that I rebuilt our military in my first term and continue to do so. We will always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for us. The only nation that China and Russia fear and respects is the Donald J. Trump rebuilt USA. Make America Great Again, President Donald J. Trump. Okay. And the some of the things on Twitter summarizing that, their summary was I doubt NATO would be there for us if we really needed them. I believe that statement, and I always have. Actually, NATO would never help us. I fail to see a situation where like something would happen to the United States where the rest of NATO wouldn't be incentivized to step in, where it wouldn't affect the rest of NATO. It would have to be some sort of a thing where like China gets or not China. Let me restart. It'd have to be something here like Canada gets taken over by some maniacal dictator and decides to invade the United States, and then the rest of NATO is just like, well, that's Western Hemisphere stuff. We don't have to deal with that, and then they don't
forecast at 7.648
come to the call when Article 5 is invoked or whatever it is, right?
2 million. US factory orders month on month forecast minus 1.2%.
But every situation that I can envision where that's realistic, where the United States needs the help of Europe, you know, like there is a full-on conflict with China or Russia, they'd 100% be there, because if the United States died, they certainly wouldn't be able to do it on their own.
US
so they would have to.
Forecast 0.2%, prior 0.2%, US durable goods revised.
But
forecast
at the same time, on practically every political issue, the United States and Europe disagree. And you're seeing it happen already, man. That, like, things aren't going very well in Europe because of those decisions that they've made. You think that they will turn around and change their mind? Well, that's what tends to happen. Like, that's what happened in the 70s. They went too far left, and then they realized, oh, this doesn't work, and then they changed for a while, and they're already back in that cycle again. Practically telling you that they would do that, I swear. You know what though? Okay, so like here's another thing in politics. Last thing before we're gonna have the news here in 8 minutes. So like, have you seen the things that have happened in New York since Zoran Mamdani was sworn into office? Like, he spent the whole time campaigning on making the subway free, and like the first thing he does is increase the fare fee. Yeah. I saw bus prices raised to $3 even though he promised free travel.
On Venezuela says
another one
energy commerce is
that happened is he is installing people to positions that just seem incredibly unqualified. like he hired the fire chief, that he installed. It's never worked for the fire department. She was an EMS or something like that. From everything that I've seen, this Zohran guy has no fucking clue what's going on. I saw somebody the other day saying, oh, he's doing that because he can. And he's putting them in and then smiling and laughing at you that everybody puts up with it, even though he knows that it's bullshit. I don't think that's actually what it is. I think that he just really has absolutely no clue how anything works. Where I get frustrated, where again, it's like, I feel like I'm more qualified than all of these people, these other people. You would think that people in Congress, they would know about budgets and inflation and economics and things like that. Like that's the thing that it should be, right? But they don't. Most of them don't. I think that most members of the House would really, really struggle to explain supply and demand to people, the information sharing mechanism of the markets and why it's necessary. And that's the thing on Reddit that bothers me the most. I guess this is kind of where I was trying to get to earlier, is that like everything on Reddit is like pro-socialism, pro-communism, and it's all based on a fundamental lack of understanding about anything economic. They think that capitalism is basically a giant mechanism to coerce people into working. That is not why capitalism has been so successful. The reason capitalism has been so successful is because it aligns everybody's incentives with what will satisfy supply and demand, so that supply and demand stay in balance. And when you do that, that's when you're able to see economic growth. If you don't do that, then you're always dealing with some sort of a shortage in some area of the market.
Prior 0.2%.
Really what it all comes down to.
Minus 1.4%.
None of these people understand that.
PMI prior 48.
And you try and talk about it, you try and teach it, and nobody wants to hear it.
Prior 48.9. US ISM services prices paid forecast 64.9. Prior 65.4. US
I think that Mondami just doesn't know what he's doing.
Prior 52.9. US core durable goods
seems well intentioned, but I don't think he knows what he's doing.
From the prior US durable goods revised forecast minus 2.2%.
Yeah, if they got offered free stuff by the other guy, you think they want to listen to you? Yeah, probably not. The issue is that they've already been given an answer on things that satisfies them, and anything that seems to contradict that answer that they think they already have gets ignored. They think they already understand what capitalism is. And the idea that the reason capitalism is successful is because it aligns the incentives to create the information and share information so that we don't have shortages and everything all the time. That's the real true innovation of capitalism, and why a market is so necessary to economic prosperity. Just completely contradicts their whole ideology. Because their whole ideology is this is all coercion for the upper class to get free labor from us or whatever. Ergo, we should get rid of it. Where's that going to go? Will they ever figure it out and understand the truth? Because this is like pretty, stuff with a lot of research backing it and everything. Like I feel like that the left is as ignorant about economics as the right is about vaccines. And the left is constantly freaking out about how Republicans are against vaccines, or that on the Republican side, because most Republicans aren't like that, but that there's anti-vaxxers in conservatives, and that's such a terrible
Russian
thing.
Transport Ministry
And I think that the misinformation on the left about economics probably causes more deaths than vaccines. You know? And is that ever going to change? Because I just don't see how Reddit can maintain a belief like that's so directly contradicts everything that we know about how the world works. It's just mind-boggling to me. He didn't teach us math. Hello, welcome to the stream. Well, we got a minute here. Oh, from Korea. Hey, how's it going? We haven't heard too much of a peep from Korea lately, have we?
Services PMI.
But I bet Samsung's doing really well right now.
Russian Transport Ministry on U.S. seizure of Marinera oil tanker.
We got big news here coming up in a minute. We'll analyze that, and then I got to get going.
Other states,
and hopefully tomorrow we have full data. Actually, while we're waiting here, I can refresh and see if they got back to me. No, they did not. So I think that the one I'm most interested in here is the JOLTS job opening. So we'll lead with that and see where we go.
$54.4, higher than forecast of $52.2.
Okay.
JOLTS
so JOLTS was 7.146 versus the expected 7.647. So that's a pretty. That's a pretty big miss.
Lower than the
that's like 500,000 less jobs.
51.9,
and then the services PMI was better than expected, 54.4 versus 52.2. And what about prices paid? Slightly lower than expected, 64.3 versus 64.9. So unfortunately, I can't see the order flow. But I think that jobs opening, also US ADP employment change was 41K versus 50K. So I think that what we see in the data is very concerning for the labor market. And the services is slightly better. Well, it's not slightly. It was a good beat. This is showing more of this K-shaped economy. And so for the treasuries, I think that favors upside in treasuries. That the Federal Reserve will care more about the poor labor market. And I think that JOLTS jobs number is pretty bad. Whereas the services PMIs, like those have been good, and people know that they've been good, so that the market probably isn't going to weight that as heavily. So I think even though it's a little bit mixed, that the negative data for the job market are probably going to matter more. But who knows? The treasuries are probably like up at the highs of the day right now, and I can't even see it. But I should get going. Time to drive in to work. Thank you guys for being here. It's sad that we only get 90 minutes, but you guys are here every day. I appreciate it so much. So thank you. See you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent.